Hi, I'm Jan Doyle. Welcome to Classroom Connections. Today's guest is internationally known. He's one of the top 20 spiritual leaders in the world. It's my honor to welcome Bernie Siegel back to the show.
Thank you, Jan.
I am so happy to have you here. You're always a delight to see.
Thanks.
You truly are. I don't know why I don't have you on every single day. I mean, really. But I wanted to just congratulate you on an award that you're up for. You're being considered for, out of 500 submissions, the 18th annual Books for a Better Life Award. And that's this book here that you just recently published, The Art of Healing. That's huge. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I was thrilled to be considered. And the interesting thing to me was it's under the spirituality category.
Yes,
because
yes.
my first thought when I got this email about it was to look under medical, or health.
That's what I did.
I didn't see my name, so I started, scrolling up and under spirituality.
I was interested in seeing that. Now, you were kind enough to send me a copy of it from your publisher, or your publisher sent me a copy, and I was forced to tell you, I've read it, but it's lost somewhere in my house. Does that say anything about me? Or is that saying I'm not quite ready to be healed, or what? I don't know.
Unless you find it in some really significant space, that you might have put it in, and then find it there again. So let's see what happens.
Because I know I have it, I'm just not sure where.
Then we'll interpret it.
Okay. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you started the Center for Exceptional Cancer Patients.
Right.
Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, we started it in, I think it was 1978. And what started it was, first of all, my pain at being a physician and feeling that we are not trained, and still aren't, adequately to deal with death. I mean, you don't hear the word dead in a hospital.
No,
people
you don't.
pass, all these words.
Yes,
I
yes.
had one book that had 3 pages on how to say somebody's dead without using the word dead. Like they kick the bucket.
Oh, yes, yes.
I mean, it's amazing how we avoid it. And
we do. I never use the word.
And so I was in a lot of pain because I like people. I wanted to help people. I always say I became a doctor for healthy reasons. And then I was in pain, and nobody responded or helped me. I wrote to my medical school dean, and I kept writing every time they get a new dean because nobody ever answered my letter, saying, you made me a wonderful technician, but I don't know how to take care of myself or my patients. And nobody even answered the letter, which to me was just an example of the truth of what I'm saying. They're not dealing with me as a person.
And how out of touch they are.
It took over 50 years for the dean to finally answer me. And I felt that was because it was a woman finally.
Oh, that's interesting.
And when I say that, I'm sending the copy of the first letter to each one, saying, nobody answered me, nobody answered me. But anyway, because of that...
That's a book, Bernie.
Pardon?
That's a book.
Yeah.
That really is.
Everything's a book. But I went to a workshop by Carl Simonton. He was a doctor, radiation therapist, wrote Getting Well Again to help cancer patients. He's coming to the New Haven area. I signed up for the weekend workshop. I thought this will give me new tools to help people, not just the mechanical ones as a surgeon. 125 people were in the room. I was the only doctor there. It blew my mind when I learned that.
Do you remember what professions the other people represented?
Well, yeah, there were 2 psychotherapists and 122 cancer patients.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't believe that not one single doctor in the whole state showed up. It's like he's crazy, he's teaching you. You remember the old days where Pac-Man would eat up the cancer cell?
Yes.
I mean, it was things like that. And that not one oncologist in the whole damn state would show up. I mean, it just blew my mind. But what it did create was a different environment because here I am, and here are all my patients. I mean, a large number of them, not every one, with cancer. And so they sat with me. You see, we weren't like separated across a desk anymore. And the one who changed my life, and I don't know who she is or where she is, but I keep saying, I hope she shows up again because I want to thank her. But she was a young woman with breast cancer sitting next to me. She said, Bernie, you're a nice guy. I feel better when I'm in the office with you, but I can't take you home with me. So I'm here to learn how to live between office visits.
Oh, I remember you wrote that book.
Yeah, and so that became a title of a book too. But when she said that to me, it just refocused my brain that if you help people live, you don't have to feel like a failure. You know, if you're trying to keep them from dying, you're in big trouble. But if you help them to live. And the other fascinating thing was, you know, that consciousness is non-local. And we know the future, because, well, as Jung said, the future is unconsciously prepared long in advance, and therefore can be guessed by clairvoyance. So I go Saturday and Sunday to this weekend workshop. Monday, I go back to my office. My partner, Dick Selzer, walks up to me and said, "You're gone." I said, "Excuse me, what are you talking about?" He said, "You're going to quit surgery. You're a different person today." I thought he was nuts. You know, I just spent a weekend at a work. What are you talking about? But 8 years later, I quit surgery.
Wow,
yeah. But that's what led to my starting all the support groups.
That's
it was that year I started, because I think the workshop might have been in the spring, you know, or summer or whatever. So I decided in the fall we would start when everybody was back from vacations and things. And that was the other education. I sent 100 letters to patients from our office who are dealing with cancer. And it said, basically, you want to live a longer, better life, come to a meeting. I told the secretary, make sure you put in, it's only for the patients from our office who receive this letter, that they can't find friends and relatives with cancer and say, come with me, okay? She forgot to put that in. I was a wreck. I mean, you wouldn't believe what a disaster I felt this was, because I'm expecting several hundred people to show up. That's my concept. You know, people want to live, want to get better. You got a letter from your doctor. What the hell you got to lose? And less than a dozen women showed up.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Well, I was shocked too. You know, I thought, don't you want to live? I mean, what do you got to lose by coming? And I thought, you don't even know your patients then. If they don't have that kind of feeling about life, you need to know what they're going through, what they're thinking about and feeling. And my wife is the one who said, oh, that's a group of exceptional women. Because I was trying to find a title, you know, with some nice, cute little letters that would mean something for the group. But when my wife said, this is really a group of exceptional cancer patients, I thought, okay, that became the title. And then it got abbreviated to ECAP, which was fine. But again, it was just amazing to me. But that's when I began to study people. See, I always say, I'm in a minority group. My parents loved me. I did well in school, and God was not a problem. I didn't know what other people were going through, you see. And I say God was not a problem because my grandfather was my religious teacher. So we sat and talked, you know. It wasn't you're sinning, you didn't do the right thing. It was just learning, yeah.
That's huge.
And that's why a lot of the things I began to ask patients, other doctors would say to me, you're blaming your patients. I said, what are you talking about? You're asking them what's going on in their life, as if it's their fault they got sick. I said, no, I'm not. It was how I was brought up. You see, you looked at what was going on in your life, you got in touch with your feelings, and let them help you decide what to do. As my mother would say, do what'll make you happy. God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. I mean, I grew up with what I called mottos to live by. I mean, I didn't know other kids, as one guy said, got mottos to die by. See? I mean, I have quotes. My mother's words were eating away at me and maybe gave me cancer. And I always say the biggest public health issue on the planet is whether you were loved by your parents or not.
Wow,
See?
that's huge.
If you were loved by your parents, you take care of yourself. And, You're not saved by somebody telling you on a pack of cigarettes, this is not good for you, or a bottle of soda, make it smaller. You know, I mean, that doesn't save lives. If the mayor of New York got on television and said, I love all of you. I feel like your father. I want you to take care of yourselves. I love you. That would save more people. See?
Oh, that even felt differently to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot about how he wanted to get rid of supersized sodas and whatnot, and Jeff's never felt it.
Yeah, but you see, that doesn't say I love you.
Oh, no.
That says science tells us it's no good to have sugar, so we'll make a smaller bottle. You know, but so what if I drink 2 bottles? I mean, that's not going to save anybody. The other was a wonderful term, and one of the greatest gifts to me from a suicidal teenager, because one day I always hear her saying to me, you know, you're my CD. I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean I'm a CD? You know, because I'm thinking of the sound. She said, you're my chosen dad. And that really also enlightened me. The kids are wonderful. I mean, they've always been my therapists and teachers. So I found it very comfortable from then on to say to a lot of people, I'll be your father if you need a father. And I always say it has nothing to do with anybody's age. They could be older than I am. It doesn't matter. But it's the relationship. See, as a doctor, that's what I try to become to people then. I let them know I love them. See, every time I start this, I keep thinking of different patients. You have a no smoking sign in your waiting room years ago. Woman comes in, lights a cigarette beneath the sign. I mean, it's obvious she's looking for a reaction. But you see, what's the normal reaction? What are you doing? What is wrong with you? Get out of here.
Yeah, that's my thought.
You know, the rejection. And that's what she grew up with, I'm sure. So I walk in the waiting room and I bust out laughing. And she looks at me like, what the hell are you laughing at? I said, it's obvious you want attention. You know, come on in. And then it's like, he isn't going to yell at me. I mean, because that's how you get attention. You cause trouble. And
That's how kids do it in school.
Yeah. I mean, the bullies get a lot more attention. We've been through that with our kids. You know, when the kid who's an angel says, I don't get 20% of your time because we have 5 kids, I explained to him his brother's driving us nuts. So he gets 40. You see, the thing is, though, that most kids assume they aren't loved rather than go to their father and say, hey, you don't love me as much as my brother. That took guts, see? Because they always say, you're in the last bedroom at the end of the hall. What does it say to you? They don't love me. Look where they put me.
Yeah,
no, we do
proximity.
love you. We trust you. We don't worry about you. That's why you're at the end of the hall and your brother's right off the kitchen, you know?
And that's exactly what happens in a classroom. You know, the good kids, you put them away.
Right.
The other ones, put them close to you. Bernie, I want to talk a little bit about your book.
But let me mention then, when you say classroom, I'm speaking in a high school. The principal said, this is, you know, a dangerous neighborhood that this school is in, and just be very careful walking in the hallways. I said, the kids have invited me. I mean, I don't expect that they're going to mug me. They asked me to come here. He said, just be careful in the hallway.
Wow.
I go into the classroom. You know, it's a big room with lots of... And I always realize none of the kids want to sit in front of you, because if you ask a question, you know,
right, yeah.
Boom. So the fact that 5 seats were left empty, you know, in front of the desk, okay. We're about to start, 5 guys come in and sit there. And I started my lecture. And I asked a question, and one of the guys raised his hand. So I said, yeah, what's the answer? And then I said, no, that's wrong. And I went on to discuss it. At the end, I heard them walking out of the room saying, see, you should never answer. You shouldn't raise your hand. Look what it says. You know. The guy was smiling, though. He didn't have a problem. He enjoyed my lecture and participating. I learned later that that was the gang leader of the school. He had not spoken in 4 years in any class. Those were his bodyguards. There were 4 bodyguards and him. And he had never spoken in a class in 4 years.
God.
What did I laugh at? The principal says to me, what's going to happen now? You tell him he's wrong. What's he going to do to the school? I said, calm down. I said, he was having a good time. He walked out of the room laughing, telling his bodyguards, cool it, you know? I mean, he was letting them
That
know
is
he was
so
having a good time. It didn't hurt
interesting.
his feelings that I said, no, you're wrong, and then explained what I was trying to point out. But that's the part I learned, that as a doctor too, when you gave people that feeling that you loved them, I always say, even if I didn't like what they were doing or how they were behaving, they began to change in time. I mean, it could be months later, but they realized, he doesn't give up on me, so I must be worth something, so maybe I should take care of myself.
Well, I love to tell the story. You've been married 56, 58 years?
It's more now.
You've been married a tremendous amount of years.
We got married, I better do the arithmetic, in 1954.
1954. So 54 to,
I'm 13.
so 44, wait a minute, no. I shouldn't be doing
No,
this.
it's coming up to 60 years. Yeah, that's right. Because 54, so if we get to 14, that'll be 60 years.
60 years.
Yeah.
And then my favorite expression, when you were here once, and it was, I guess, your 58th birthday, not your birthday, your anniversary, and you said you've been married,
yeah.
and how many years?
Yeah, like we've had 45 wonderful years of married life, and 45 out of 60 isn't too bad. Yeah, right. Women want to kill me when I introduce my wife that way.
but that's why you've had such a long marriage. It's the humor involved.
Because there's an article in, I think it's USA Today, about psychological testing of married couples, and how they answered the questions could predict if they were going to get a divorce or not. If there was some hesitancy about something. And the psychiatrist Milton Erickson, he'd had polio. I mean, he was a wonderful teacher, Ericksonian hypnotherapy and so forth. But he would do things like telling the couple to do the same thing. See, I want you to take a walk up this hill and tell me what you think of the view from the top next time you come in. And, if the husband came in and said, why did you tell us to do that? What the hell's the point? I wasted half an hour. And the wife said, oh, it's just so beautiful. It felt so good up there. It's like their marriage was going to end.
Yes, yes.
And some therapists just have a dog in the office. And people come in and say, oh, God, get that, and the husband says, oh, it's a cute little thing. They know they're not going to make it. But if they both have the same reaction, there's much more hope that they will survive. And I think that's a part of why my wife and I have stayed together, that we're very similar in terms of what we enjoy, and, plus pets and everything else. We've always had a house full of children. I mean, she was a school teacher, too. I mean, she brought home pets that were out in the street and wandered into her room because it was the last room on the school. And so if she'd see some little pet, cat or dog show up, she would bring it home, and as a medical student, I would neuter them. And I mean, at the hospital, not in our apartment. And take care of them, and they were our children from day one. Yeah.
Bertie, I want to just talk a little bit about your book, The Art of Healing. Let's just talk about the title.
Well, because in it, there are, as you can see, 70 drawings.
Yes.
And see, that's the part that, again, is left out of medicine. Carl Jung interpreted a dream, it must be at least 90 years ago, and diagnosed a brain tumor from the dream.
Did he really?
Yeah,
wow.
I have never met a doctor who's ever been told that while they were in training. To me, it would seem vital, so that you say to your patients, do you have any intuitive feeling? If you had a dream? Because you'd be amazed at the dreams. Some are in my other books, like a book of miracles and other things, where, two dreams, for instance. One, a woman said she learned she had cancer. A white cat appeared, said, my name is Miracle, and here's the treatment you should have for your cancer. Now,
this is in the same dream?
Yeah, in the dream, the cat tells her,
wow,
my name is Miracle, and the white is a symbolic color too, and then tells her, see, that's what's amazing, how to treat her cancer. Now, this woman is not a doctor, not a nurse, but she writes it all down, and her doctor follows instructions, which I give the doctor credit for, and she is cured and fine. What was he? Oh, the other dream, you go to sleep, a dark-skinned woman with an accent appears in your dream and says, you have a lump in your right breast, you really need to have it checked. She wakes up, feels it, goes to the hospital. It's diagnosed as cancer. After she, sees many people dealing with the diagnosis and all the tests, they say, we will now have the doctor come in who's going to direct your treatment and take care of you. She'll be in a few minutes. A few minutes later, the door opens. Into the room comes a doctor from India with an accent, a woman who was in her dream the night, and told her she has a lump in her breast.
Wow.
Now, tell me how that happens,
This goes back to what you were saying at the beginning. You were prefacing this type of thing, the unconscious.
Yeah.
Speaks the future.
That we know the future. And the other thing, you see, even think about drawing. If you said, I'm having an operation next week, I said, draw yourself in the operating room, and it's a black box with nobody taking care of you. You know what I mean? You're lying in a black box on a table with only 2 legs, and there's not a soul around it. See, my comment to that woman was, don't, or change doctors. I mean, you're going through this, you may not survive, or you're going to have all kinds of problems recovering. But she said, no, I like the doctor. I said, okay, then go home and picture yourself going to the hospital, having surgery, doing beautifully, home. A week later, she drew this gorgeous picture with God's light, the family's right outside, the room is filled with doctors, 4 legs on the table now, not 2. It's just wonderful. And there are other people, when you say draw a picture, because I'm pretty sure that's in there too, the surgeon is not covered with a cap, mask, and gown, is holding her. Flowers are growing in the operating room, love and God, those words appear. I don't worry about that person. She'll do fine.
I remember a painting a self-portrait that you drew, that you brought in here years ago, where you're dressed.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in there, but I'll look.
Well, you know what? That is interesting. I didn't look for that.
Yeah, because, I was covering up all my feelings, and that's why it blew my mind when I painted that picture when the family got tired of posing for me. So I went ahead and thought, I'll give them a break, I'll paint myself. And then I put on a cap, mask, and the gown, and painted myself looking in the mirror, When I look at it today, I wonder how the hell could you do it? But that was 1977, see, a year before I got involved in this. And the other thing that when I drew, see, what got me into pictures was after that, drawing a picture for Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I went to one of her workshops to help, again, with my pain. And she said, Bernie, draw me a picture. So I drew an outdoor scene. It was the scene from a guided imagery that Carl Simonton had led me, the whole group in. And so it was, again, something I manufactured, not real. To me, just your imagination. So I drew this picture. As soon as she looked at it, she said, why is 11 important? I said, I've been doing this 11 months. What are you covering up? I said, what are you talking about? She said, Bernie, this is a white piece of paper. You made a mountain with snow on it. You used a white crayon where the snow is. The page is already white. You added a layer. What are you covering up?
Oh, isn't that interesting?
And I thought, how does she know so much about me from this meaningless picture? And that's why I went to the hospital with crayons. And then I thought I was discovering incredible things because I knew nothing of this. But my patients, they didn't have a problem drawing pictures. So they would draw for me. And when I tried to publish the articles in medical journals, it came back. Interesting, but not appropriate. When I sent them to her as appropriate, they said, yes, it's appropriate, but it isn't interesting. We're familiar with all this. I thought, you're familiar? Why didn't somebody teach me? And that's when I got in touch with other therapists, literally one in London where I would go to talk with her because she knew Jung, had all these drawings. And you see, she was fascinated by what I brought because I knew anatomy. I made that clear to her. She didn't understand that. She said Jung was always fascinated by the somatic aspects of the drawings. I said, because he knew anatomy. You don't. So you're a Jungian therapist who's never studied the human body. So when I look at a picture, it's like, wow, you know, look what they're showing me about what's going on within them. And I began to bring her some so she would understand. And you know, a good number of those are in the book. So people can see how, again, the body speaks through dreams and drawings. That's why I talk about making the invisible visible. If you go to bed thinking all the time, spend your day worrying all the time, it never comes through. I call it keeping a lid on because you're busy with it. But if you can go to sleep and have a quiet mind, then your psyche can talk to you and your body can talk to you and say, you got to pay attention to this, or don't worry about it. Because I've had dreams telling me I'm not seriously ill. And it is incredible how these things happen, you know, and I had certain symptoms.
You know, Bernie, I'm going to have to stop you there. We're already finished for this program, and I haven't even begun to get into the book.
Right.
So in our next topic, next time we meet, we're going to discuss the book, The Art of Healing. And I find talking to you fascinating. And if people wanted to contact you, what is your contact information?
Well, the website is Bernie Siegel, Siegel, BernieSiegelMD.com.
And it took me a million years to spell his last name correctly, I might add. And if you have any questions you'd like to direct to me that I can bring to Bernie another time, you can contact me at my website, classroomconnections365.com, or email me at jmdteach@comcast.net. Bernie, thank you so much. And promise me next time we can talk about the book.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Though I don't like making promises.
Yeah, but it's me.